Ladies and gentlemen, welcome yet again to another episode of It's Me Speaking to You. I'm, as always, your host, Mr. Jeffrey Wilson, coming to you live and direct from the gateway to the West. Once again, and today, bringing the heat. Some heavyweight championship heat, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have the Dynamo Pro heavyweight champion, the intelligent monster, DirtY, Jake Dirden. What's happening, Dirden?
The greatest Dynamo Pro Wrestling heavyweight champion of all time, Jake Dirden. You gotta get it right.
I forgot to add that part. The greatest. And say, you know what? I'm not even gonna lie. I'm gonna start this out 100. I'm gonna do the best I can to keep it journalistically objective, because I'm telling you what, I am a member of the Consortium of Chaos. I'm not gonna lie, and that is I'm a big Ricky Cruz fan. Let's just say that. And I know you guys don't exactly see eye to eye, and I know that's putting it lightly. So I'm going to put my journalist hat on, remain objective, and have a nice middle-of-the-ground conversation without entering any feelings involved. How about that?
Hey, yeah, no, ain't no problem at all. I got no hard feelings with him. I got the championship. That's all I need, right?
I hear that.
Why would I have any hard feelings?
Oh, man. All right, so my man, DirtY Jake Dirden, this guy, I mean, as long as I've been frequenting the Dynamo Pro shows, this dude has been in it at the top of the roster. I mean, he's been the heavyweight champion more than once. He's been a tag team champion. And, you know, the crazy thing is, I mean, if you look at DirtY Jake Dirden, you think the guy's been in the game for quite a while. I'm thinking a little under 5 years, and this guy, multiple championships. He's toured multiple territories. I don't think he can speak much on it, but I know he's been at the WWE Performance Center. Mr. DirtY Jake Dirden, why don't you tell me, if you don't mind, because I'm always curious, because I'm a professional wrestling fan. I think I'm a little older than you, and I'm just wondering, when did the bug bite you? Was it after the territory days? And if it wasn't, what territory were you a fan of?
Let me see. It first got me with the WWF. Yeah, I think the first thing I ever saw was probably like 6 or 7 years old, and I think you know, probably Hulkster or something like that was the first thing I ever saw. But it was definitely WWF, and I definitely remember Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior being the first big thing that really caught my attention about it, and kind of didn't ever let me go from there. So I think Hulkster probably made me aware of it around late 89 or something.
Okay.
But Warrior and Hogan in 90, that set it off for good.
So I'm quite sure you probably had a chance to check the network out. Have you had a chance to go back and see some of the territory days?
Yeah, I'm a historian of wrestling, so I've seen all kinds of stuff. So I go back and I check out Mid-South and Georgia and the Carolinas and even Portland stuff, World Wrestling at the Chase or international stuff, World of Sport. Any kind of wrestling I can find, I kind of want to dive into that brand new world and see who all the people are, all the matchups, all the history, all the, you know, characters and stuff. So.
Well, and of course the style and the work and everything is kind of changed, and you could probably speak better to that than I can, but something I always thought was really compelling about the old school 80s territory days, regardless of, you know, AWA, Mid-South, like you said, world class, it's when we believed it. And so these guys were experts. I mean, I wouldn't say they weren't the best workers, but they weren't doing all these high spots. They had the psychological aspect of it way better down, I think, than today's crop of professional wrestlers or sports entertainers. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I would agree with that to a certain level. I think the biggest thing that's missing in everything that goes on today, whenever we talk about there's too much flash, I don't necessarily know if too much flash just on its own merit is a bad thing, but if you don't have the psychology that goes with it of trying to present it as a sport that needs to be won, it's a competition that you win, that I think that's the thing that people kind of miss. And while people say that's lacking, I think just maybe search harder, and look longer, because you'll find guys like Drew Gulak, who has a philosophy that even I've kind of taken to, called Catch Point. And it's not about flash. It's a philosophy of wrestling. It's not about flash. It's about winning. It's about what it takes to put the W put your name under the W column and take home the winner's half of the purse. And it doesn't matter how you get there. It doesn't matter how many fans you win along the way. It doesn't matter how good you look doing it. All that matters is that you win and you become the best.
What did Jesse say? Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. I'm sure that's probably not your philosophy, but
hey, I'm Dirty Jake Dirden for a reason. I want that winning half of the mark, and that's all that matters. And when I'm the champion, then everybody knows that's all that matters. They can play by the same rules I can if they want to. That's everybody's own decision they get to make. But they better know when I go out there, I'm going to win at all costs, and you got a big, giant, intelligent, badass monster coming at you, willing to do anything it takes, scratch your face off to win a match.
Well, and I tell you what, I mean, and you do definitely play no holds barred. I tell you what, I think it was maybe last summer. I was at the Stratford Inn, and I forget who Ricky Cruz at the time. I'm not sure if he was the champion at the time. I forget who he was facing at the time, but. You are Dirty Jake Dirden, brother, but you were playing a little bit of dirty pool. You not only came out, you didn't necessarily interfere in the match, but you made your presence known. Not only did you make your presence known, you sat on like this elevated platform above next to the ring and above it, just kind of supervising Ricky's match. And if anybody wants to go see the altercation which ensued after all of that, it was some of the dopest stuff I've seen in a long time. You boys went at it serious style. I mean, you guys had like 10, 15 people separating you, and once we thought you were separated, Ricky did an end around and comes out another door. I mean, this is a testament to the heat you guys have between each other. You know, I like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into being a Ricky Cruz fan, but I mean, you guys are really doing it big over at Dynamo Pro Wrestling, and like I said, I've been a huge fan, not just of wrestling, but wrestling in St. Louis. And you guys are really done an amazing job over the last several years, you know, really bringing wrestling back, putting it on the map. And you're not only just a Dynamo Pro guy, you're a little bit everywhere. Do you mind talking about, I don't know if this is like a non-compete thing, you've been in territories other than just St. Louis. You're expanding your brand.
Yeah, I've kind of been all over the place. I mean, you know, there's a couple promotions locally. There's also PGP that's up in Illinois, and I just worked for FIP, Full Impact Pro, down in Florida last weekend, and hopefully going to be back in the six-man showcase where we won down there in Florida last year, and been down to Texas, and obviously wrestled over Japan for Noah, and the wrestling road kind of travels you all over the place, and I'm going to be wrestling at the Hall of Fame show in Waterloo, Iowa, coming up in July against Wes Briscoe. I'm going to beat him right in front of his pa, Jerry. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place these days.
Which is good, man, because you know they always say the territories have died, but I like to look at it as all these different independents, if you will, are kind of, for lack of a better term, the new territories. I mean, you guys, and there are a lot of them, so you guys can now, and it's been a while. You know, they always say, you know, the territories dying really kind of hurt the business because the boys couldn't go around and bounce around and learn from different spots and different places, different styles, and that's really not the case anymore, man. There's plenty of spots for people to travel around and hone their craft.
There's definitely spots now, and I think the only issue that we may run into in the future is if the landscape of the territories does get burned a little bit by everyone sucking up the talent, putting everybody under contract, so you don't have that older crop of independent wrestlers to be able to teach the younger crop of independent wrestlers that are coming up how to become those next wave of stars right before they move on to that next level too. So I think with the stuff like the branding stitch, I think you're going to see a little bit. A little bit of that. I think you'll see a little bit more scorched earth on the indies. So I think right away it's great for a lot of guys that are out there. But I think the next wave of guys that are getting ready to get into business right now, they may have a tougher time. They may have a more difficult time learning and honing their craft because they may be doing it against each other as opposed to doing it against that other wave of people that should have been in the pipeline waiting to move up the ladder but got moved up a little bit quicker because of just the way that the pro wrestling world is shaping up right now.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really talk about the world of professional wrestling without talking about the politics of it. I mean, I kind of goes hand in hand a little bit. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? I mean, as I've seen, throughout, I've been, whatever, I'm a huge fan, even dating back to, whatever, long time. And it's a lot of dudes back in the day, and probably even now with the political aspect of it, there's really a big emphasis on protecting one's spot. I mean, even if one is injured, they don't want to stay out too long because of that spot. You don't want to lose that spot, that momentum, that push that you're getting. You don't want to lose that inertia, that build. What are your thoughts on that, on politics in the business?
Well, I think politics are always going to be in the business, and I think that there is, I don't know if there's a place for it, but I don't know. I don't see any way that you're going to get it out. But at the same time, it seems like all the people who have ended up being very successful over time were successful politicians in the back some way,
sure.
somehow. They may have had their own method, whether it was Hulkster or Stone Cold or Shawn Michaels, whoever it was, they all kind of had their own way that they...
Or kind of the psychology which got, Dean Malenko, Chris Jericho, Eddie and Ray, that kind of psychology which got them to bounce out of the WCW because they just were not, talented as hell and went on to, great careers and heavyweight championships and all that, but just could not get through that ceiling of, Hall, Nash, Hulk. You're right. It's been ubiquitous throughout the business forever, but I think sometimes, you're right, a lot of those guys who are successful were good politicians too, but it was at the expense sometimes of, as we saw with WCW, the promotion, as well as, losing some really, really good talent.
Yeah, well, I would definitely agree to that. I wouldn't say that, the politics in the business is all for the better. I'd say that more often than not, politics hurt the business. I wouldn't say that that's always the case. I think
Sure.
there's definitely some politics that happen in the business that help it. But more generally than not, I would say that politics are something that are, they're trying to mask what the fans should see or what should
Sure.
organically occur in wrestling. And so generally I don't think it's a helpful thing, but you're not going to get rid of them. I think just understanding what they are and who the players are is the only kind of important thing, and just knowing how to read a room. And if you know how to do that much and have your head on a swivel, I think you can still allow your wrestling to carry yourself in the ring, though.
Sure. No, absolutely. It's kind of like a necessary evil, without a doubt. When I first met you or came upon you, sir, I could not help, as, like I said, a little bit older and an 80s wrestling fan, I could not help notice your resemblance to a gentleman by the name of Frank Goodish, a.k.a. Bruiser Brody, King Kong Brody. I had a wonderful chance to interview his widow, Barbara Goodish, on the show here, which was just an awesome conversation. How much, I can only assume, how much did Mr. Goodish, a.k.a. Bruiser Brody, how much did he influence you, your career, even the psychology of it, because he was so just masterful at all of that? What are your thoughts on Mr. Bruiser Brody?
I think he played an important role in wrestling, and I think there's a handful of guys that kind of helped play that role too, that added realism to what we did and added credibility to what we did. I think the Bruiser Brodys, the Stan Hansons, and I think there's a handful of other guys that just really kind of beat people up and were really tough guys and really work characters and all the things that nowadays a lot of guys say that they are or pretend to be or put on clothes to make them seem like they are. In wrestling, these guys just were. Right. In real life, every day, and that's who they were, and they just happen to be in pro wrestling. And I think that kind of thing is missing a little bit probably nowadays in today's wrestling, but it is what it is, and you kind of have to move along. It'd be great to have more guys like that, but I think that that's the biggest thing that I would like to try to have and try to be is not something that's fake or is disingenuous to who I am or who I would be, but who you get in the ring is just going to be an amplified version of me. If you got me when I'm really angry, stuck in traffic, or somebody at a fast food place is messing with me or something like that, you know what I mean? You probably get a pretty similar version of me. And I think that that's important. You need those guys, the Harley Races, those old school figures that you knew there's no messing around with. And I think if there's anything I would try to take from him, I think that's what I'd be trying to take from him. And you mentioned Barbara, and I spoke with her many times, and she's a very sweet lady, and we actually stay in contact here and there, and stay in touch. And she's a wonderful person, and it's a terrible thing that happened to their family.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because she had such really a Zen philosophy about it. If you want to listen to it, folks, it's me speaking to you, Barbara Goodish. It's definitely worth checking out. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, Jake. It's definitely those kind of old school, Johnny Valentine's, kind of like the people you mentioned, man, Harley Race, who really gave, not that the sport's not legitimate, but definitely, really reinforced the legitimacy of the sport, because those were, like you asked Ric Flair, you asked anybody, Harley Race was one of the toughest son of bitches, that was around at the time in the 80s.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
I was actually just listening to Ric Flair's story talking about how they said Harley Race whipped them just to make sure, for one trip over in Japan, that they didn't try to mess with them with the World Heavyweight title. So, yeah, you knew that there were certain guys out there that there just wasn't any messing around with. And, I think that's something that's missing. I'd love to bring some of that back.
Well, and you're definitely doing it, man. I mean, obviously, you're freaking huge, and you look like a monster. When my youngest daughter first saw you, I had to really kind of smooth her over, because she was a little shook, man. She was a little shook, and I think she still is. And you took a picture of her with her at the last Raw, and you could just she was still arms close together, just still was not quite sold on it. But yeah, that's just a testament to you, brother, and how awesome your character is over. But fasting forward a little bit, man, actually quite a bit. We're in 2016. WWE is, it's really seemed like it's having like a resurgence, man. I was not even messing with it for so long. And, the ratings are back up. They now have live SmackDown. Obviously, you can't please everybody in the world of professional wrestling / sports entertainment. What are your thoughts on the new, the product of the day? Obviously, it's different than before. What are your thoughts on it? And what would you tweak, if anything? Like you said, you bring back a little bit of some of that realism, quote unquote. But what are your thoughts on today's product?
Yeah, I think today's product, I think it's, I think it's changed. A lot of people say it's evolved. I don't know what the correct word would be for it necessarily, but it's not what I watch, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't know if I want to watch the exact same thing my entire life. I would like to see it change and move, and take left turns and right turns and up and down hills and see where it all takes us. I think that's the journey. That's cool, but I watch it. I try to stay up to date with it. There's a lot of things that I don't necessarily care for, and I might skip. But there's a lot of stuff that I'll go out of my way for. I try not to bash anything, and I try not to sit there and watch anything I'm not going to enjoy. I just fast forward. There's lots of wrestling out there, so I try to just find a new product or something that I can get behind, a New Japan or something like that, or maybe some UK products with some new fresh talent that don't maybe try to put too much creatively in the way of their guys, like some of the places around here. So I think it's just a balancing act of, finding what's right for you in this world. There's a lot of stuff out there in the wrestling world right now, so it's just a matter of finding the stuff that appeals to you, and you can leave the rest alone,
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's almost like a version. I mean, I don't know what the acronym would be, like mixed martial professional wrestling. I mean, it's just like nowadays you have, whatever style, your strong style, your sports entertainment, your lucha, your New Japan. So it's like you do definitely have a huge variety, and I really dig that, because even though WWE is kind of the big company on the block, you still have options. We still have whatever, TNA, Ring of Honor, lucha, like I said, New Japan. So, the monopoly that, WWE kind of has is not the only show in town, which is cool, refreshing, because it can get kind of whack, man. Like I said, I've been kind of getting back into it. I really dig some Enzo and Cass. There's not a lot of them there that I'm really digging, but they definitely put some entertainment back into sports entertainment, that's for sure. What are your thoughts on Enzo and Cass? You digging them?
Yeah, absolutely. I was really thinking for a while, even while they're down in NXT, I just thought, I thought this was an act that would translate well to Monday Night Raw. Yeah. When they first brought up Adam Rose, I was sitting there thinking, what, I don't know how this Adam Rose thing is going to work once they have it in the building, unless they have 40 or 50 extras coming down to the ringside with them, because when it translates to that bigger arena, it's just going to look strange to have that small pocket of group around them. But with Enzo and Cass thing, they do one-liners, and they have a shtick that they go to the ring with, and they rattle it off just like the New Age Outlaws. So people can learn that shtick, and they can say that every time. So now all of a sudden this bigger arenas really helped this act. And now instead of 2,000 or a couple hundred people saying their stick, now they got 15,000 people
right.
singing along with them, right? So I really early on kind of saw, I was like, man, once these guys get some traction with the Raw roster, they're going to hit the ground running, and people are going to buy into that because they got a new, fresh look. They're different, and they got something that the people can naturally attach themselves to quickly. So it's just it's up to them to see how far that they can go. Now they're hot right now, but who knows how long that lasts? That's going to be up to them.
Well, yeah, and it was not funny, but it was very interesting. The week, it seemed like right after Enzo got hurt, obviously they still wanted to keep Cass busy and put him out on the mic and stuff. Last couple of weeks, man, I don't know. Not that they're not gonna break that team up anytime soon, but I don't know. I could see down the line them setting up a big Cass singles run.
I definitely think that they see something like that for him, and I definitely think that there is potential in that for him. I think it's just a matter of him 100% completely finding himself. I think right now, it looks like Enzo looks more comfortable than Big Cass does. Big Cass feels comfortable, but I think Big Cass feels comfortable, and I think Enzo feels free, and there's a difference there, and I think that's why Enzo's the one that's kind of carrying that thing a little bit. But I think that, they see all the stock in Big Cass. They see the size and the athleticism and the look and all that stuff. And I get all that. And, I mean, you turn a certain corner, maybe he comes off TV. That's the kind of guy you could repackage, and he could be a Hulk Hogan if he got repackaged. They knew what he wanted to do with all of his stuff, you know what I mean? So, but will that ever happen? It's a big if. It's just a matter of how all the stuff's going to shake out in the future.
Well, I mean, obviously, and it's, those two, it's weird because before this all went down, I don't even know who I was talking to. I'm like, man, I really miss, because me personally, again, I'm old. I remember the Jim Crockett days, like the roster was so deep, the card was so deep, like and from singles, you had a whole shitload of people to get, to fight. Tag teams, you had a whole, the Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express, the Koloffs, and now it seems like, the tag team division or whatever is having a resurgence, which is so cool. Because I think, when you have good tag teams, I think that could help, bring a house that's definitely entertaining, especially if you have good tag teams. Back in the day, obviously, LOD, the Freebirds, Von Erichs, with whatever combination they had, tag teams was the shit back in the day. And along with managers, too, they need to be bringing more of that back, and they are with the tag teams. I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, and I think they've had a couple of good examples that were successes, and I think that they're starting to be less afraid of things like that. When you see how good Paul Heyman did, and then you see how good the New Day did, and then I think it makes it a lot easier for them to say, okay, well, if we find the right ones at least, then we can maybe get behind those acts. And I think at least starting to open those gates, open up that willingness. That's the same kind of thing we saw when we saw Daniel Bryan and CM Punk popping up in the Fed. And it's like, okay, well, they're starting to acquiesce a little bit. Let's see. They're testing the waters, and they'll see how it goes. Well, look how many guys have come in now. You know what I mean? And what they're doing now. So I think it's not going to take too many more successes, too many more wins for them to have a sample size big enough to say, man, let's go back to that stuff we were doing before. It worked then. Yeah. It looks like it's going to work now. It's not burning out on our fans. Let's cycle that stuff back in.
Well, and I know, New Day is huge. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of them personally, but they're huge, and I know their merchandise is huge, and this is like indicative of the whole tag team thing, and they're now, I mean, you can see it coming. Xavier Woods obviously is about ready to jump over with the Wyatts. I mean, and that's just dope, man. I mean, that's just people probably didn't see that coming. That's, kind of a weird kind of mix there, but I think all of those guys are so talented, man, and they've all obviously proven to be like so good at what they do. Like you said, you switch them up, repackage them. They've got what it takes to really make that stuff go, clearly. In my opinion.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely think they have some pieces. I think the WWE right now definitely has all the pieces that they need. If they wanted to get some more, they could. And they got the resources to do that. But they have all the pieces they need right now to have a lot of success. Now they kind of box themselves into needing to have a lot of success having two split brands, and then also NXT is its own traveling brand as well. So they're kind of extending themselves quite a bit. But if anybody can extend themselves that far, it's them. And they'll do a good job at it. I don't doubt that for a second. And honestly, I'm just getting excited about another night of live TV and basically another brand of wrestling. And I think it could be a new life for a lot of wrestlers. And I'm excited to see what this brand extension brings and what Bradshaw's will turn into a JBL overnight to become big time players, So
yeah, I mean there's definitely a few of them in there, man, and I'm anxious to see how it develops as well as the draft. That should be pretty interesting. Bringing it back home, man. I mean, obviously, like I said, you are the Dynamo Pro Heavyweight Champion. Excuse me, the greatest Dynamo Pro Heavyweight Champion.
There you go.
And you guys have some pretty serious, I mean, you guys stay busy around here, but I've been hearing it and seeing it everywhere. July 22nd, there's something going on called NatsuCon, which is obviously one of them, not necessarily Comic-Con, but it's one of those cons, which is huge throughout the country. You guys have one going down Friday, July 22nd at the Gateway Center in Collinsville, Illinois. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that? NatsuCon.
Yeah, man. NatsuCon, man, that's going to be a big show, one of the biggest shows of the year, July 22nd. Yeah, man, there's going to be a big match on that show. Big proving match. And it's a guy named Mike Outlaw who's been around here running his mouth.
Outlaw.
Saying he wants,
I'm sorry, I got to wear my journalist hat. Let me keep it on. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, he's your boy, I bet, right?
Go ahead.
Yeah, well, he runs his mouth, and he says he's the champion, and he says he wants my belt. Well, he can come fight me for it just like everybody else, but he's got to earn the right. He can't just come out here and run his mouth. I'm tired of that crap.
But you are talking about Mike Outlaw, the former Dynamo Pro champion. He was champion already, right? You at least give him that.
Yeah, the guy that lost the belt to me. That one. Yeah. That guy, he can earn his new opportunity. He earned that opportunity. That's fine. He lost that championship. It's come and gone. We don't live on our own historical successes, do we? No. We got to create our own new opportunity each and every day. He can create one next time out. July 22nd, he's got his chance because he's facing one of the best wrestlers, one of the craziest damn wrestlers I've ever seen in my life. He's facing Delirious from Ring of Honor, and if he could beat Delirious, and maybe it's a statement big enough to say that he's worthy of fighting me for my championship.
Well,
not till he earns it.
I understand. In the champion's mind, he is the greatest champion. But Mike Outlaw, he didn't just win his championship from any slouch. He beat Ricky Cruz, who is probably one of the most pedigreed wrestlers in the Midwest, if not the country, if not the world. He's been everywhere. So he's no slouch. I mean, the man's worn the gold, so you must give him his due, which I'm sure you do begrudgingly. And we'll see.
Ricky Cruz is fantastic. He's an amazing wrestler. He's a world-class athlete. He's a world-traveled wrestler. I just hate his guts, and I think he's a low-life piece of crap, and I think he's politicked. I think he's lied, and he kissed babies his way to the top, and I don't think he deserves anything that he's ever gotten, and I'm going to take everything else he's got away from him from here to the end of his stupid, stinking career. And if Mike Outlaw wants to get my way while I do it and try to take my gold, maybe I shorten his by a few days, a few months, a couple of years as well. And both of these two can finally get what's coming to them, an ass whooping, courtesy of Dirty Jake Dirden.
Well, I hate to rewind the conversation 10 minutes, but what do we have here? A hater? We got ourselves a hater? We got an Outlaw hater? We got a Cruz hater over here?
Ricky Cruz and Mike Outlaw sounds like a cup of haters to me.
We will see, brother, because this is the show me state, and we will see July 22nd if Mike Outlaw has what it takes. But that's not even it. You guys have so much stuff going on. Saturday, July 16th, you guys are going to be at the Sports Academy in Glen Carbon, Illinois. You're going to be, July 22nd. Just said that one. And, yeah, that's going to be, like you said, the big card, ladies and gentlemen. Go check it out, dynamoprowrestling.com, natsucon.org. We'll give you all the information, all the rundown on the upcoming events and the who's who, the what's what on Dynamo Pro Wrestling and yours truly here on the horn with us, the greatest heavyweight champion, Dynamo Pro Wrestling champion in history, DirtY Jake Dirden. Any final thoughts, my friend? Any social networking stuff you want to throw out to your many of fans, my friend?
Yeah, absolutely. You can catch me on Facebook, Jake Dirden, on Twitter, Instagram, and Periscope at DirtY DirDey TV, and go buy a T-shirt. Come out to one of the shows and buy yourself a couple of T-shirts. And coming up very soon, I'm going to be releasing the first volume of the Best of Jake Dirden on DVD. So get that too.
Well, and definitely, man, and you're welcome back here again. This is, I'm a talk show host, so I got to wear my journalist hat. You are welcome back anytime you want, despite the fact we might not see eye to eye on who we think is the best in the world, et cetera, et cetera. But DirtY Jake Dirden, thank you so very much for your time, my friend. Continued success. And ladies and gentlemen, the Intelligent Monster has taken some time and hung out with us today. DirtY Jake Dirden, the Dynamo Pro heavyweight champion. Thank you so much, my friend.
Man, you're welcome. The biggest show of your career.
Oh, my goodness. I'll just keep my journalist hat on once again. Peace and all the love, DirtY Jake Dirden.
Take it easy, man.
All right, you too, brother.